leave yourself on video or off, whatever you're most comfortable with. And we have a pretty big group with us today, so we won't be doing live introductions, but please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you'd like, and also use the chat function for questions throughout, and we'll have lots of time for Q&A at the end, and we'll be monitoring that chat throughout. So welcome to today's session on the Northeast Food for Schools program. My name is Simca Horowitz. I'm co-director at Massachusetts Farm to School, here with my colleague Lisa, and also really happy to have folks from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education with us today as well. Denise, I think you're in the room if you want to say hello as well.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Denise. So today we're going to give a quick overview of the program and hopefully really help you evaluate if it is a good fit for your school, and also talk about some of the support services that will be available to participating schools, and talk about next steps. But we really want this session to be useful for you, so please ask lots of questions, and hopefully we can make really good use of this time, and you can leave feeling confident about whether it's something that you're going to participate in. So I'm going to share my screen. Great. And get started. So Northeast Food for Schools. Oh, and for those of you who aren't familiar with Mass Farm to School, just a quick overview. We do a lot of work with schools around getting more healthy local foods into meals, also work directly with farmers and producers. Much of this work we do through providing professional development, networking, advocacy work, communications. You may be familiar with our Harvest of the Month program. And we're really excited to have a role in supporting DESE and implementation of the Northeast Food for Schools program. So quick overview, this is a new program. It is one-time USDA funding that is providing $3.5 million to Massachusetts. That money is coming to DESE to be allocated to Massachusetts public schools. All school districts are eligible to participate. You can opt in to the program. And it is specifically designed to support your purchases of unprocessed or minimally processed foods that are grown, raised, caught within 400 miles. So we're calling this Northeast Food for Schools because that's also just sort of conceptually, I think, easier than thinking about exactly what 400 miles is, but we're often going to be thinking about that in terms of like New England and New York really are sort of regional food shed. And in terms of the award size, school districts can apply, request up to $100,000, and then awards will be made based on the district size, the level of interest across the state, so sort of what sort of funds are available. So a request for $100,000 doesn't guarantee that you would receive $100,000, but that is the maximum that can be requested. DESE anticipates distributing the funds to schools this spring, and then they'd be available for approximately 18-month timeline, so through June of 2024. And we will talk a little bit now about eligible products, because I know there could be some confusion around what unprocessed or minimally processed foods are. So we're a big group, so I think, and I can't actually see the chat, but you can quiz yourself if you think these are eligible items, Massachusetts grown carrot coins. Yes, that counts. So this is the, for fresh fruits and vegetables, minimally processed often means something that might be peeled or chopped, that kind of thing. Yogurt made in New Hampshire. Yes, that kind of value added dairy product. And again, we're talking about the regions. It doesn't have to be a Massachusetts yogurt company. It could be produced across the state border in Massachusetts. Fish fillets that are caught in regional waters on a Massachusetts owned boat. Yes, again, that is an item that not produce, but something that is considered minimally processed. A fish fillet is just getting to you in a form that's easier to use. We don't expect you to be buying whole fish and cleaning them yourselves. And ground beef from Vermont. Yes, again, something that is minimally processed from our region. And bread baked in a Massachusetts bakery. No. So this is something that would go beyond being minimally processed. This would be an item that would be not eligible for this funding. So it does not cover breads, muffins, things like that, that are, or any sort of prepared meals that are like ready to eat. And we can certainly get into more questions about eligible products, or feel free to put specific questions in the chat if you have them. So a few things to be thinking about when you are considering how you might participate in this program is thinking a little bit about what products you're looking to source. So I think what's exciting about this opportunity is that this is supplemental funding on top of your existing school food budget. So this is a really great opportunity to try something new, to potentially do something that you know, doesn't need to feel like as much of a risk, because again, it's not impacting your regular school food budget. And to develop, we hope, some new purchasing relationships that could be sustained beyond the length of this grant program. And for those of you who are already doing some local food purchasing, to expand that, to try some new products, or for those of you who haven't yet done any local food purchasing, this is a really low risk way to get started. These could be purchases that you're doing directly from a farmer or producer. They could be ones coming from a food hub, so somebody who is aggregating product from a number of local producers and distributing pretty exclusively local or regional product. Or from a more traditional distributor. But one of the things you really want to assess is whether the vendor you'd be working with can provide product traceability. So they can tell you where, if you're buying apples, for example, where those apples originated. Because again, for products to be eligible, they do have to come from within 400 miles. So in order to determine if they're eligible, you need to be able to know where they actually came from. And another thing to be thinking about as you may be evaluating different vendors is just delivery schedules and logistics. Is it someone that is really going to fit with how your school meal program operations work? So we will be providing technical support to participating school districts and also have some additional support that will be provided in partnership with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. And so this will be support on how to think strategically about allocating your funds. We know that you guys have a lot of different pots of funding that you're drawing from to make up the food and the meals that you're served, be that DoD Fresh or your other entitlement funds, the new supply chain assistance funds, this program. So really thinking about how do you maximize all of those different pots of funds to serve the best food that you can to students and really take advantage of all of the dollars that are available. We will be providing direct connections to farms that are interested in selling to schools, also to food hubs or those sort of aggregators that are really excited to work more with schools and that have product available from a number of local producers. We can provide support in developing solicitations for products. So that includes requests for quotes. DESE has released a really excellent sort of template or sample request for quotes to make it really easy for schools to go through this process. And that will allow you to select vendors and not be concerned about staying under the micro purchase threshold. So this would be for things in that $10,000 to $100,000 range, which is really what a lot of people would be receiving through this program. So support with the request for quotes, or for those individuals or groups of districts that might be interested in developing more formal solicitations, like a request for proposals. That's, again, something we'll be providing support around. And then really want to hear what else would help you best take advantage of this program. So want to know what other kind of help would be useful. And in terms of next steps, if you haven't already done so, the Northeast Food for Schools interest form, which is where you are letting DESE know that you want funds and that you would sort of the amount that you'd be interested in accessing. You can access that form on the DESE website. So the link is in here, and we'll be sharing out these slides. Also, you have received an email directly from DESE, or your DESE point of contact has. So we'll make sure that you can easily access that to complete the interest form. That is due by March 20th. So that is the deadline for letting DESE know that you want to participate in the program. We encourage you to contact any existing local food vendors that you might already be working with, because they will probably be excited to hear that you will have additional funds to spend with them, and probably have some great ideas about how you might be able to do that. And we encourage you to reach out directly to us at Mass Farm to School to request specific types of support, really whatever you think is going to be most useful for you to take full advantage of the program, and really come up with a plan for using the funds, because 18 months can go by quickly, and we know that for people to use the funds and use them well, we think they're having a sort of plan in place that spans that time frame and really helps you take advantage even of products in the dead of winter that would be available in this region and meet the criteria guidelines for this program. Having a plan to do that will be very helpful. So to that end, encourage you to reach out to me or to my colleague Lisa, and you can visit us online. We don't have a ton of Northeast Food for Schools info online at the moment, but there will be shortly. So we really look forward to also taking questions today and trying to compile some responses and putting those on the website as well, as a resource for you going forward. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. I think give Denise or Lisa the opportunity to add anything else in. I don't know, Denise, if there's anything you want to say from the DESE perspective, but
I think the only thing is we worked hard to get the link up on the security portal to make it so easy for everyone to access the survey. But I've gotten some feedback where folks are like, I already filled out the survey, but it's still appearing there. So it's gonna appear there through the 20th. And if you've already filled out your survey, you don't need to do it again. We've received it. So I think that was there just to make it easier, but I think it's caused a slight bit of confusion. So wanted to explain.
Awesome. So want to open it up at this point for any questions.
Maybe I could start. A few questions came in the chat during your presentation. I'm happy to start off. and maybe we can just tag team on addressing them.
Yeah.
2 questions about product eligibility came in, one being cheese. Massachusetts produced cheese. Is that an allowable product? And that would be a yes, as a dairy product, value added dairy product, that is an allowable product. And then also Massachusetts made corn tortilla with Massachusetts corn. And actually Denise and Simca and I talked specifically about a product like this very recently. And that is an allowable product. It's USDA has a category of, am I categorizing correctly, Denise, grain products? Is that the right term that USDA uses to talk about something like this? And so that would be an allowable product. And I'm happy to answer any questions kind of that may arise as we talk about those 2 products specifically, but slides will be available. We'll send them out to participants, and then also we'll make them available on our website along with the recording. So we'll try to share that widely.
Questions around vendor lists and specifically Food Hub vendor lists. Yes, so we have been convening a whole network of food hubs to really sort of prepare them for this opportunity. And we'll definitely be making that list of food hubs available. And they serve different, they don't all serve like the entire state. So part of what we're really trying to do in this sort of technical support is some of that matchmaking, essentially. Like if you're in the Berkshires, this is a food hub that might be a good fit for you because you're in their service area. If you're in Southeastern Mass, this is 1 or 2 food hubs that are particularly accessible for your region. And then really trying to, hopefully this is something that's kind of going to go both ways, so that if you are a school district interested in working with a food hub, and particularly if you're looking at to the sort of higher levels of purchasing, that we could be helping you develop a request for quotes that you would be able to put out to that food hub, to any 3 vendors, to receive quotes so that you could actually award a contract to a vendor and be purchasing up to $100,000 and know that you're fully compliant with the state and federal procurement guidelines. So definitely providing the names of vendors, but we hope to be supporting you beyond just those direct connections and really helping you with the procurement process itself. Other questions? I think that we have gotten some questions about the potential overlap with the supply chain assistance funds, or people saying that I have a certain amount allocated to produce through DoD. This is just, hoping to remind folks that, again, it's not just for produce. So even if you are purchasing a high volume of your produce through DoD, to be thinking about what beyond produce might you be using these funds for, and how you might be making, using these funds to essentially be freeing up some of your existing budget. Denise, you want to?
Yeah, and I was also going to remind folks that this funding is running through next year. And right now, I know everyone's working really hard on their USDA foods entitlement. So if you're feeling like your DoD percentage is sort of would deter you from using funds, that could be another approach you could take to rethink your entitlement distribution if you felt like that was a deal breaker.
Will fluctuating produce prices be a problem? I think that's a really great question. It's often, I know, hard the solicitation process can be challenging with produce price fluctuation. I think one thing that we do see is that's really a benefit to the local or regional food system is a lot more kind of consistency in pricing across the growing season as opposed to conventional produce pricing. And I think that's something that, particularly in the conversations we've been having in the food hubs, that people are really prepared to have pricing be fixed in a way that's gonna support you doing a, for example, a 3-quote process that that does have fixed pricing over the term of the contract. So I'm not sure if that totally answers that question, but we're also happy to help you think through like what's the best way to structure your a request for quotes or something like that to address that fact. Compliance paperwork. Excellent question about like what's going to be required for compliance. There is Denise, do you want to field this? I mean, it's fairly straightforward, I think is the great answer, but you want to say the details?
Sure. So can I ask a question? When you read the term compliance paperwork, do you read that as, and maybe the question asker can clarify, paperwork that they need to keep and submit as part of the grant, or paperwork that you need to have on file for the administrative review?
I'm not sure. Maybe you could answer both of those things.
Sure. There is going to be some data collection that we're working on at the moment. And that would be something that would basically be part of it's going to be relatively simple. What did you buy? Where did it come from? What's the value of that product? That type of basic information, nothing too super heavy. And that will be part of when you submit for your claim for reimbursement. You'll submit that as the program goes through. When you think about this,
claim. Sorry.
oh no, I'm sorry. Okay. And when you think about an administrative review, we're really looking for just documented allowable costs, right? So, just there isn't going to be a part of the review that necessarily drills down on these funds. In general, during administrative reviews or procurement reviews, we're looking at your contracts, right? Your receipts, just to make sure you're not buying, swimming pools with federal funds. So as far as an administrative review perspective, it's similar to SCA, with just have your receipts to be able to show you bought minimally processed food, and that's what we would be looking for. Does that
Yeah,
answer?
and I think just in case there was any confusion, the way that this will operate in a reimbursement mechanism. So you'll be purchasing, you'll be told what your total award is over the grant period. And then you'll periodically be letting DESI know, I bought, $1,500 of product in this period. This was the vendor I spent it at. Please reimburse me for that amount. And DESI will be submitting that reimbursement to you. So hope that's clear. And when will we know if we'll get funds and how much funds we will get? So Denise can shed some more light on this, but the opt-in form is open through the 20th. And then once that comes in, there'll be a process of really figuring out the award amounts based on how the total amount that was requested. And rough timeline, Denise, of.
So, I will be honest, I'm not, because this is a new program, I'm not sure necessarily what hurdles stand in our way from being able to actually push the button. I'm hoping for end of April. April is what I'm hoping for. I don't think it would be later than May. But is an educated guess.
We had another question about harvest of the month. Great idea someone had that this would be a really good starting place for thinking about like what local items might I purchase. And yes, the harvest of the month items monthly like don't change year to year. So if you go to the Mass Farm to School website, the harvest of the month page, you can see there are both the original 12 harvest of the month crops, and then this year we also added a number of seasonal items that those are all, and there's the same sort of promotional materials for those. And so you can take a look, and it really covers, again, not just produce, but there's like seafood and dairy in there, corn. So if somebody's thinking about those tortillas, you can feature those during the corn month. So yeah, alignment with harvest of the month is a great idea. Another question about food service management companies, and if you still have to do an RFP process, if you have existing relationships with local vendors. I can try and field this if that's, I think it depends if you are purchasing items for which you have already done a competitive solicitation. So if you have already done an RFP to find a local, and you've identified a seafood vendor, for example, through an RFP process, and now you have these funds and you'd like to use these funds to pay that seafood vendor, you wouldn't need to do that. You wouldn't need to replicate that RFP process if you've already gone through a competitive solicitation. If it were for new items, I would assume that you would need to do a solicitation process. Does that sound? I am not the procurement reviewer though, so I yeah. Is mass grown milk eligible? Yes. Would shelf stable milk be allowable? Shelf stable milk, that's a good question. I would have to check with USDA whether that's considered an allowable item. And again, if it's something that is, the product itself has to originate within the region. So for example, if it was milk from outside of the Northeast that was packaged here, like that wouldn't qualify. The milk itself has to be from the region. So I'm also just like not super familiar with shelf stable milk processing and where that's happening. But that we can take that down and try and get back to you specifically about shelf stable milk. Any other questions? Or any other like concerns, if there's anyone feeling like there's something they'd like to voice about how their understanding of how the program is going to operate that raises any questions or concerns for you, happy to take those as well. And think about, again, we're still really in the process of designing the supports that we can offer to schools. So really want to know what the things are that feel like they're the place that could be most challenging for you to be successful with this. So if you can't get 3 quotes due to your location, so the requirement is that the request for quotes gets sent to 3 vendors. You do not need to receive 3 responses. So I don't know if that answers your question, but if you receive 1 and you really like the 1 and you did send it to 3 people, that is okay. Do local eggs need to be pasteurized? I do not know the regulations on that. I can we can take that one down as well. I'm not sure. Can we use state contract pricing for quotes?
So Carol, that is an awesome question. I'm gonna bring that back to the FMT, because I don't know off the top of my head the answer to that.
Any other questions? Awesome. Well, can you go over the reimbursement process again? Okay, if you're awarded a set amount, how does the reimbursement process work? Yeah, so you do. So the question of like, do we use our food service budget money to pay for it and get reimbursed? Yes. There will be, once you're given your award amount, say your school district is given, $20,000 to spend over the period of the grant. You will periodically, likely monthly, but little TBD, be saying, submitting a claim saying, I spent this amount of money in this period. I spent it at the following vendors. And here's the total amount I spent. And then submitting that to DESE, and DESE will reimburse you for that amount. And that goes on throughout the period of the grant until you reach your total award amount, and then you can no longer submit for reimbursement. Is that clear? Is there any lingering questions on that?
The only thing I would add is, you use a term, you would submit a claim.
Oh, sorry.
But it wouldn't be literally you going into the claims area and typing it in. We're going to have another mechanism for you to request reimbursement, just not to use a word that maybe everybody thinks of like, this is the claim window, it will be a separate, because this is just a one-time funding, it will be a separate mechanism.
So questions about how long you have to use all the funds. So the original timeline for this was through June of 2024. We had been anticipating a slightly earlier start date. So at this point, June 2024 is still kind of the end date that we're thinking of. I think USDA is aware that there are a number of factors that have led to the rollout being a little slower than anticipated. But at this time, June 24 is the end. So the end of next school year. And what happens if you're unable to use all of the funds? Denise, you want to talk about reallocation at all?
Yeah, I think our goal is to, in partnership with Mass Farm to School, to be really in contact with everyone who's awarded. And if you feel like you can't spend the funds, that's okay. Hopefully we're going to identify that in an early enough time that you could return some of the funds that you don't think can get expended, and then we can reallocate them to other folks who may be capable of spending them.
Any other questions? When do we anticipate funds being awarded? Again, hopefully late April, like around that time. A little, pending however smoothly this new process unfolds. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate everyone jumping on here today, and encourage you to continue to be in touch if you have any questions. And once you have made a decision, if you are opting in, to reach out for technical support. It is, you know, June 24 is not a super long time frame, so really want you to be well positioned to hit the ground running and make the best use of these funds. So encourage you to get in touch sooner rather than later. And oh, Lisa, go ahead.
No, I just want to, there are several people that joined after we started. So I just want to let everyone know and remind everyone again, we are recording this session. And we've also noted all of the questions. And so we'll distribute that information to all the registered attendees with the recording slides. And then we're going to start to build out like a Q&A on Mass Murder School's website. So kind of keep an eye out for that follow-up information if you weren't able to join right at the start.
Great. And remember, March 20th is that deadline for opting in. So head on over to the DESI site to opt in if you think it's a good fit for you and haven't already done so. Great. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon.